Alright guys, Stephen here, and this time what I want to do is look into something that has quickly become one of my favourite features of Nornir, even over and above its ridiculous pace, and that is the ability to introduce basic and complex filters. Now, filters essentially allow you to constrain the devices that are going to be subject to the logic within your scripts, which from a configuration point of view means that erroneous configuration will never be sent to devices that it was never meant to be sent to. And from a troubleshooting point of view, ultimately, show commands or information is never going to be requested from devices that are not part of any given problem. So ultimately it just makes you more efficient, or makes the script more efficient. Now, before we look into it in any great depth, what I do want to cover off is a little bit of Nornir's inheritance model, because I have written a script that requires you to understand a little bit about how it works. Now, inheritance is nothing complex. In fact, if anybody's ever worked with Windows permissions, you've already been using something similar, probably on a day-to-day basis. Now, what I want to do is look first of all at this topology. So we can see two distinct sites, Glasgow and Edinburgh, and each site has three layers within it. That's a core, distribution, and an access layer. Okay, now in the hosts.yaml file for this topology, if we focus on Glasgow Core 1, we can see that the information is pretty limited on it. We've got the IP address that it's reachable at, a username and password, and details of a couple of groups that this individual device is a member of. Okay, so this device is a member of GlasgowNet, okay, which all devices in that Glasgow site are. It's also a member of the core group. Okay, now there's no other keys here, okay, and yet if I go into the Python IDE, what I've done is I've instantiated Nornir the same way that I would if I was writing it in a script. I've then created a variable called hosts, and to that variable I have assigned the contents of the Glasgow Core 1 key from the host inventory. Okay, so essentially the content of this variable is this stuff here. Okay, now the strange thing is, or in contrary to the contents of the host file, if I specify a key of hosts, a key of site against the host variable, it returns a value of Glasgow. Okay, however, in the host.yaml file, there is no key under Glasgow Core 1 called site. Similarly, if I go in and I attach a key of layer _3, it returns a boolean value of true, but there's no key called layer 3 in the host file underneath Glasgow Core 1. And similarly, if I look at the platform, it's not specified in the host file, but it returns iOS. So where is it coming from? Well, what I want to do is point this out. Each of these devices is part of groups, okay? And in the case of Glasgow Core 1, it's a member of GlasgowNet and Core. So if we look at the groups.yaml file, GlasgowNet has a key of site and Core has a key of layer 3. So ultimately, any devices which are members of these groups inherit the attributes of the group as well. And then below that, you've then got the defaults.yaml file, which has a key value pair of platform iOS. So every device inherits these. They are defaults. So unless specified elsewhere, the platform for the device is iOS. Okay. Now, it is critical to understand that there is a hierarchy here. Okay, the defaults.yaml file is at the bottom of that, the host is at the top, and the groups is in the middle. So, for example, if I had a device in the host.yaml file that had a key value pair of platform Cisco_XE, then that Cisco_XE takes precedence. Okay, there is an inheritance model, but ultimately there is also a hierarchy as well. Now, moving on to the script, what I've done here is I have essentially just imported some pretty basic features of Nornir. There's no fancy importing required for basic filtering anyway, which is what we're going to look at first. So you import the init Nornir object, you use it to create an instance of Nornir and assign that instance of Nornir to a variable, in this case I have called nr. Now I then create another variable called basic_filter, which is a result of running the .filter method against that nr variable, which contains my instance of Nornir, and I pass in the filter method an argument of site equals Glasgow. So ultimately, the following logic, or the logic that follows in this Python script, is only going to be applied to those devices which have a key value pair in their inventory of site Glasgow. Okay. Now it just so happens that that will only apply to the Glasgow devices, oddly enough. Now we do have to have some means of essentially proving this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we will simply send a banner message of the day saying banner applied with basic filter, and we'll only send it to those devices that are in the Glasgow site. Okay, so I'll go into that kind of went worse. So if we say Python 3 basic filter.py will allow this to run. Now the output of Nornir here will be a giveaway, but we will go into the devices and check. Okay, so we should see here from the Nornir output that the only host names that give us any feedback should be those with the first 4 letters of GLAS for Glasgow. Okay, there we go. So we've got Glasgow distro 2, distro 1, core 2, core 1, access 1, 2, 3 and 4, but they've all got class in there as the first 4 letters of their host name, which when I was kind of setting all this up is the way that I attributed host names to Glasgow devices. The Edinburgh devices all have the first 4 letters as Eden. Okay, but having said that, we'll go in. If we look at the Glasgow core 1, and we can see banner applied with basic filter. Okay, now just for the avoidance of any doubt, if we go into Edinburgh access 4 for example and we hit enter, there is no banner. Okay, so again, really simple. That syntax is your variable name that you have essentially stored your instance of Nornir in, run the filter method against it and pass it your argument. Okay, now it doesn't have to be site. Okay, essentially you can pass it in any detail that you want. So what I could do here ultimately is say name, for example, name equals Glasgow core 2, and say blah blah blah. Okay, and then if I run this again, it's only going to go to Glasgow and the devices with where the name equals Glasgow core 2. Okay, ultimately it doesn't need to be site. A basic filter simply means that you're filtering based upon one attribute, and when you go into advanced filtering you can essentially create compound filters where you use binary and or logic, and we'll look at that in a wee moment. Now let this run. Okay, there we go. Right there. I hadn't saved it. You have to save it in Sublime Text. PyCharm changes it dynamically. Okay, so if I run this time, I'll come back in a moment. Okay, so that's run there. Okay, apologies there. I actually panicked there. Okay, but all that's happened there is Sublime Text doesn't dynamically save your changes to your scripts. PyCharm does, which is both a drawback and a benefit ultimately. Now, when I've saved the script with the change from site equals Glasgow to name equals Glasgow core 2, we can see that ultimately the script has only run on one device, Glasgow core 2, as specified in the host.yaml file, and if we go into the Glasgow core 2, we can see that the banner has changed to blah blah blah. Okay, now what I was going to do is record the complex filtering in the same video, but I'm conscious that this video is getting on a bit, so I think I'll leave that till the next video. Alright, cheers.